Welcome to Life Gloss, a beauty podcast for sassy and seasoned women who have lived life and have a drawer full of lip gloss to prove it.
Welcome back, Life Gloss. We have our resident hero with us today. The illustrious Dr. Perricone is back with us this month, and we are kicking off the holiday season with a healthy focus on sugar, how you can enjoy your season without hating your photos and feeling like you have to pay for it in January. Welcome, Dr. Perricone.
It's a pleasure to
Welcome.
be back. Very pleasurable to be with you both. And a really great opportunity to talk to our audience and teach them a little bit about nutrition and how to stay healthy.
Wonderful. We love it. And I know that you've been studying a lot. For a lot of our audience that doesn't know, it's back to school for their kids, but you've gone back to school too, which is mind-blowing considering, your already very impressive pedigree.
Well, I really wanted to do this program. It's the Executive Master's program at Yale. And so the students are older. They're in their probably late 30s and 40s. I knew I'd be older than the students. And I knew I'm older than most of the professors. And after walking around campus, I'm older than the buildings.
But you look better. We've had so much audience feedback after our last episode, and people are so thrilled that you're going to be coming back regularly. We've been flooded with questions about sugar, but so many comments about your glow and your skin. And people keep saying, my gosh, I remember seeing him 25 years ago on those PBS specials and on his book covers, and he's still glowing. So just a little feedback from our audience. So you may be older than the buildings, but
better kept, maybe.
Better kept.
Well, I was raving about it on the last podcast, how great you look. So I'll keep going, but we've got some great questions for you. I know. And it's the holidays. The leaves have turned. We have Halloween around the corner. We have Thanksgiving, Christmas. Obviously, we'll be seeing you many times before then, but I think I wanted to bring up the topic, and I know it's one of your favorite topics, and that is the white substance of death, sugar. So let's talk about it.
Let's go to it because, there's been so much done. And, when I was a medical student and looking under the microscope, I saw inflammation everywhere. And I really was putting it together, and inflammation is the bad guy. And the problem is it's a low-grade inflammation, so we can't see it, we can't feel it. But it's going on all the time, and it affects every cell in our body, which then affects the major organ systems. And so I also have a master's degree in nutrition. And so I worked with this, and I said, well, what's causing the inflammation? And it had to be something we were doing every day, and that's what we eat maybe 2 or 3 times a day. So it's critical that we understand this. And it's so simple. Anything that causes a rise in blood sugar results in a rise in your insulin levels. And that causes an inflammatory cascade through every cell in your body and can go on up to 3 days. So one bad meal, you increase your level of inflammation. Once again, you're not going to really realize it because you can't see it, you can't feel it, but it does affect us. And one of the things we want to do is we want to look at the skin because the skin is a barometer of what's going on inside of us. So you can use that as a barometer. And the key here is sugar. Let's get right to the bottom of it. First of all, I want to let you know that when I wrote my first book, I received a letter from the Sugar Council from their lawyers saying that they were going to sue me for talking about sugar. And I just happened to have a constitutional lawyer. He said, this is great news. He wrote that one letter and they just disappeared. So it's really important. So let's think about this. We want to eat foods, and we talked a little bit about the glycemic index last time we were on, and that's just a measure on what foods will do to your blood sugar. And so we want to stay in a low glycemic, and you can pick up, a glycemic index, little books, or it's online. It's really simple, and you really want to stay in a low glycemic area. But we want to talk about the healthy foods today. We know the sugar is the bad guy, but what can we do to really change this? And so I want to talk a little bit about medicine right now too. So when you go to your doctor and you get your blood tests, one of the things they're doing is something called C-reactive protein. And C-reactive protein measures the total inflammatory burden in your body. And so that's critical. And it's so much more important than any other number. I had a patient come to me and say, gee, my doctor said my cholesterol is high. And I said, well, what was your C-reactive protein? And the C-reactive protein was very low. I said, you don't have any risk at all. It's not cholesterol, it's inflammation. And so we have to know that. And we can, so let's just say I take someone and I do a C-reactive protein and they're up high, like 8 or 9. That's high risk. 8 weeks on the anti-inflammatory diet, right to the floor. They're like 2 or 3, which is almost non-existent. So we have control of our own bodies and we can do this. And look, a big thing for people, you don't have to be sacrificing. You can eat great food 3 times a day. If you do the right categories, you're just going to feel good. And so metabolism is the key. So metabolism controls inflammation. That's the magic button. So some of these new medications, and I'm not a fan of pharmaceuticals, but I just want to let you know that. So these new drugs like Mounjaro and Ozempic, but Mounjaro is probably a better example. They hit those receptor sites called GLP-1 and then GIP. And when you press that button, it turns inflammation off in the body. So people are taking it as a way to treat diabetes and also to treat obesity. And the most important thing I've seen, yes, I see these people lose weight, but what impressed me the most was after on about 6 or 8 months, they look 10 years younger because they're turning off inflammation. So what happens is they go into mitochondrial repair. Now, you don't have to do a pharmaceutical to do that. You just follow the anti-inflammatory diet. But that was an example of if you're really doing this correctly and you hit that metabolic button, that's the key. And so how do we do it? Simple diet. And we should probably post the anti-inflammatory diet for all of the people who watch this podcast, because you can just look at it at a glance. And so let's talk about the most important thing. I love people that are a little bit vain because they stick with the program. So let's just say we're going to start you off, and let's say you have something coming up. You have a reunion, you have a wedding coming up, and you want to look great. All you need is 3 days preparation, and you will be glowing and you'll look like incredible. And so that's the way to start. So that if we do this to you, you're going to love the way you feel, you're going to love the way you look, and it's going to be a great incentive for you to do this every day. Everybody wants to look their best and do their best. And when you drop inflammation in the body, your mood goes up and the brain works better and your skin gets more toned. And of course, you reduce risk of all diseases. Now, as someone who started a skincare company based on anti-inflammatories, yes, it works tremendously well. But having beautiful skin by putting a topical on alone does not reduce your risk of heart attacks and breast cancer and everything else. So we want to make this just a really holistic approach, and that's what my books are all about. And my book is coming out in January. I'm very excited. And I think it's going to really motivate a lot of people. But let's educate you today. Let's talk about what I think is an ideal meal. So you're getting ready and you have a reunion at school, or you're going to a wedding, and you start just 3 days before, and you're going to do salmon, salads, and blueberries. You're going to stay off any high glycemic foods. Sugar's out the door. Try and stay away from things, the high carbohydrates are going to increase insulin. And I'm telling you, on day number 4, when you head for that event, whatever it is, you're going to be wowing everybody, and you're going to feel better than you ever have. And I want you to think about that. How can I feel that good every day? And you can. There's no sacrifice in this diet. You're never hungry. But you're just taking the right categories, and that's what we want to do. It's sad, I'm at a university, and they give lectures about calories. I mean, it's not about calories; it's about food choices. So you're going to be more educated than the people at the Ivy League schools. So we can do that.
That's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you made it so bite-sized and so easy for people to understand, because anyone can commit to 3 days, especially for an event, and then carry that into the rest of their lives. Because why would you ever stop, really?
It is. And, it's interesting, too, because when you decrease inflammation systemically, you decrease inflammation in the brain. And inflammation in the brain basically gives you anxiety and depression. So when people are on day number 4, they not only look great, but they feel really incredibly good. And so I would love everybody to try the 3-day diet, and you're going to remember those days afterwards, and you're going to say, I always want to do this. So it's highly motivating. And so it's nice to look at your skin and say, hey, I look good today. Your mood's elevated, you're thinking clearly. And that's the way to do it because it's a total incentive every day. And if you blow it, one meal, fine. Few meals, you're going to go back to where you were and you're not going to let that happen.
Okay.
I think it's interesting, you bring up sort of the how bad do you want to feel good? And it's consistency. It's really not even motivation. We talk so much about motivation and living that healthy lifestyle, but I think consistency is the real key. Sticking with something really does make the difference. It's not going on and on. It becomes a lifestyle, not a diet. It's a lifestyle.
It is. And the thing is, if you go to a good restaurant, you can do all of this. There's nothing like going out and someone prepares your salmon, whatever way you like it, broiled in a beautiful Caesar salad and and fresh fruits. It's just a wonderful experience. So we can just do this. There's no sacrifice here. You can all do it. And the other thing too is when you finally get things stabilized and inflammation comes down, you said your mood's elevated and your metabolism changes, you have a lot more energy and you're sleeping better. And the best part is looking in the mirror and say, hey, this is working. That's my barometer. So we can just approach life like that. And everybody wants to feel good and look good. And certainly we don't want to have extra weight on us. But I don't like the diets I've seen in the past. And one thing that was interesting, this is 20 years ago when I was doing it, I would have patients on it and they would lose weight. And so before that, people who lost a lot of weight, you'd meet them and say, gee, you've lost weight. And I said, congratulations, but you're thinking in your mind like you look terrible. Your face is drawn. They've lost a lot of muscle mass as well. We don't lose muscle mass on the anti-inflammatory diet. And interesting, when you start losing muscle mass in your face, you look really drawn and old. Okay. So this is going to give you this wonderful radiant look. And I've had people lose up to 150 pounds on the anti-inflammatory diet, and they look magnificent. They look younger.
Wow.
They're,
And Dr. Perricone, one thing that struck me and has stuck with me is how much you do focus on proteins, the right proteins. And so many of us are not getting enough protein and we're not getting the right proteins. So salmon is a pretty easy answer.
Oh, it is. It's fantastic profile of amino acids. And there's also essential fatty acids, which are really important as an anti-inflammatory. So that's probably the easiest way to go about it. But there's so many other things you can do. But I'm just such a fan of salmon. I just can't get away from it. So I actually had it this morning and I had it last night.
That's
And
great.
it's just wonderful because I have a lot of work to do today and here we are. So I just want people, you have to form habits. And when we form habits, we don't have to think about it. And I think you're really going to be reinforced by the fact about how you feel and how you look. So let's go there. Let's go there. Let's talk about everything you can do. I mean, and another thing is, so I know there's been a lot of work on people who are fasting. And fasting is a great way to normalize your metabolism. My main concern with fasting is, are you getting enough high quality protein?
Mhm.
And that's the key. You have to get enough protein. So I'd say, let's say the average woman probably should be getting 50 to 60 grams of high quality protein. And that's not difficult to do. If you have a piece of salmon, 4 ounces, that's about 18 or 20 grams right there. And then you have two other meals of the day to get there. And you don't want empty calories for sure. And so we need to understand, well, what contains protein? Well, certainly dairy does. But I'm not a big fan of cow's milk. It's pro-inflammatory. But eggs are fantastic. And one thing I do, I'm always on the run. I actually get liquid eggs. You can get them at the store, and you get just egg whites. So I get the whole egg and everything, and I pour it into a cup, and I sweeten it a little bit with glycine, and drink that down. And it's like 40 or 50 grams of protein for me. It's like wow.
Mhm.
Interesting.
It is very interesting.
Glycine. Okay.
So let's talk about glycine. So glycine is a
Yes.
really simple amino acid. It's tiny. It tastes very sugary, which is kind of interesting. But
Oh,
glycine does a lot of things to your body. And we're all glycine deficient. Glycine, we need a lot of glycine every day. It's in the multiple grams. So what I do is I try to take glycine. I sweeten my egg drink with that, I use it in my tea. Everything I do that I want to sweeten is use glycine. And then another important thing is there's a master antioxidant in the body called glutathione. I think we've talked about this before. So glutathione is the master antioxidant. That's the one. And so if you keep glutathione levels high, it's protecting your body because all antioxidants, especially the mother antioxidant, are anti-inflammatory. And so we want to do that. And you can raise glutathione with something called N-acetylcysteine. And that's it's basically a supplement. And there's a study right now, and if you go to YouTube, there's a great doctor, I think he's out of New Zealand, and his name is Stansfield. And he recommends this thing called Glynac. Now, Glynac is just a word meaning glycine and N-acetylcysteine. So there was a study with people, they were probably in their 60s and higher, and they put them on the glycine NAC, and they took a lot of it. So they did it twice a day, the supplements. And at the end of 24 weeks, when they went back and they looked at all of their blood work, they found that their levels of glutathione were now pretty close to someone who were in their early 20s. And so that's amazing. So we want to increase glutathione as we do this. And so I'm a big fan of Glynac. You don't have to do it forever, but we did find out from the study that they did it for 24 weeks, and they really were right about the same level of glutathione in someone in their early 30s. And these are people in their 60s and 70s and 80s. So if you're young like you guys are, and you do Glynac, it's just phenomenal. And it's very protective.
Interesting. Okay.
All right.
Making notes.
We're making notes. We're making notes. And we'll have notes on all of this too in our podcast. So our listeners.
And the diet.
Yes, and the diet. So our listeners can see all this and reference all these great tips. One tip that I really would love from you. I have a very healthy house. I have 2 teenagers who are extremely healthy, thank God. But I have to say, for a lot of women out there and a lot of men with children, with Halloween around the corner, and even, moms passing out candy, I mean, what are some tips that you could give to kind of, help around these holidays? Like, just not have it in the house, just don't engage with it. I mean, you don't want to be the house that passes out apples. So what do we do?
Well, my philosophy is one day is not going to kill you. So go trick or treating, and do what my mom and dad did. You bring home this bag of candy, and then within 2 or 3 days, you said it's all gone. Of course, they threw it away.
Right. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. That's what we have.
There are some places you can send it to the troops. I know that's something that's kind of big in our neighborhood, is, they collect the candy and they'll send it to the soldiers. Not that I advocate that either, but, sometimes getting a little treat from abroad is a nice thing to do. So I think that's something that's easy for people to do. Give it away, right?
Yeah. So what we want to do is, I said, we have a good diet every day. And of course, children, it's very important to get adequate protein and plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables. So a salad a day is amazing. And the more colors in that salad, we call it the color quotient, the better you do, because those are polyphenols, powerful in terms of anti-inflammatory activity. And then the other thing I do on a daily basis, and my brother's visiting me from London, and I said, look, every morning I start the day off with a tablespoonful of extra virgin olive oil, because it's loaded with polyphenols. So what you want to do is you have to get a high quality olive oil. And if you put it in your mouth and you drink it, you should have a burning in the back of your throat. Those are the polyphenols. And so if it's not burning, the polyphenols only last about I think they last about 2 or 3 months. So you have to keep it out of the light. And even though the olive oil has a 2-year life in terms until it expires, but that's talking about the quality of the fats. They don't get oxidized, but the polyphenols don't last. So I suggest you buy high quality extra olive oil in small bottles.
Yes.
And what I do is I take aluminum foil and wrap it around the bottle so it doesn't get any light. And then we use that up pretty quickly. And that's what everybody should be doing. So it's hard to believe, but if you take that noise, by the way, that's Daisy. She's making a nest. She has a lot of puppies, so she gets a little fanatical about her nest before she takes them out.
Oh,
That's so funny.
Daisy's allowed to make as much noise as she likes.
Yes.
So
We all make our nests, Daisy.
Is there a brand of olive oil that you
Yes.
particularly care for? I mean,
well,
until you make
I just
one,
came
but
I just came back from Umbria, Italy,
Mm.
and I went there to visit a olive oil grove, and it's called Del Papa, and it has 500,000 trees. And this young man took it over from his family. I think it was started in 1945 by his grandfather. And he's put a lot of money in, but they're really high tech now. And they have, they really look at everything and they look at levels and they have ways of increasing the amount of polyphenols in the olive oil. What they do is they stress the trees a little bit. So let's talk about stress, okay? So it's so when we stress even our own bodies, our body reacts by making up defensive, and we call it hormesis. So a hormetic agent is something that will increase basically your body's, I guess it's called the responses to protect you against to oxidative stress. So what they do to stress the trees is they give them less water, and that stresses, and they make a lot of polyphenols. So he's doing all this stuff with his grove, and it's so delicious. And he gave me a few bottles, and I'm using that. So Del Papa. But there's a few others. You've got to look at, and you've got to do it, and you've got to do the taste test. So taste it. It should be very fresh, and just go like, when you're testing wine, you go like that.
Mhm.
Do that with the olive oil. If it's not burning the back of your throat, wrong one. Okay.
that's a great tip. I didn't know that. That's a great tip.
And
Incredible.
so if you have high quality extra virgin olive oil with high polyphenols, and you take that tablespoon of olive oil in the morning, it works as well as a Motrin in terms of dropping inflammation. So any aches or pains you have, you feel better. And it's doing wonderful things to your body.
I'm doing that right away. I've just been on a quest to convince friends and family that most olive oil out there is not real olive oil. They still think I'm a little crazy, but I keep telling them the labeling laws in the US allow there to be a little bit of old olive oil scraped from the bottom of a barrel somewhere mixed with other often seed oils. So the extra virgin olive oil you're getting somewhere often is not. So you need to look for an artisanal company. Is that correct?
But you've got to do the taste test and the burn
Taste
test.
test.
And that's the way to do it.
Hilda.
Because what happened is in the olive oil industry, some of the very large organized crime people are taking it and diluting it with vegetable oil. And so it's very difficult. It's happened in Italy, it's happened in Spain. And so you've got to be very careful in what you're buying. So I just leave it up to you. I mean, you look for it. I love the Del Papa brand, but they're not quite here in the United States, but they're going to get here soon. There's another one I found. It's really fun. It's called Saint Supply. I should bring the bottle up here and show you. It's a black bottle, totally opaque, so that and it comes in a very small bottle, and it's really stings when you put it in your mouth. It's really good.
Okay. Well, we're gonna put links to everything
Find it.
in all of our show notes. We want to definitely support them so they can continue.
But if Del Papa is going to get here, I mean, they're just totally dedicated. The whole family. This is like third generation, and they know everything. And it's high, it's high science. There you go. They have a lab, and they're testing. And the young man who took over, his name is Giorgio Del Papa, and his sister is Lucretia, and they're just so dedicated to this. We spent 3 days together. It was great, and we walked around the groves, and we did some filming for PBS there, because we have a program that I put together and sponsored on just the wonderful foods out there that are healthy. And so they're doing Italy right now. And so they took a little detour over to the Del Papa olive grove, and they filmed, and now they're going back to interview Giorgio. And it's really inspiring to see what they're doing. It's just so great to see people working so hard at a business. And he's put millions of dollars to bring this back. It was just deteriorating. And so he's totally dedicated. The family is. And it's so wonderful to meet people who are interested in just making people healthy. And the thing is, you can make it by making people healthy. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make less money. You're going to make more money. Okay. And there's nothing like having a successful business that's helping people at the same time. It is a very lucrative way to approach it. And so I just love all of these little things. And I have another friend at Yale whose son has a very small olive oil grove in Greece, and I'm going to go visit that one next. But he's just getting started, but it's really catching on, and this is important. So we'll give everybody what they need today to figure this out. Go out and do the taste test. Now remember, it only lasts a couple of months, so buy small bottles and make sure it doesn't get any sunlight on it. And if you take it home and you don't get that little stinging in the back, wrong one, return it.
Okay. Oh, we're going to be doing olive oil tastings. This is going to be great. I have a whole new party idea.
Okay, great. I love it.
Yeah.
And, in Rome, when they go to the baths, there's a lot of baths in Rome. There were public baths. And then they would get a massage with extra virgin olive oil. Then they had these sharp sticks they would scrape the skin to take all of the, and the skin would just be glowing, just glowing. And I think they were really on to something there, and we are now too. We don't have to, just because a few thousand years have gone by doesn't mean we want to go downhill, do we?
No, definitely not. In fact, I have one of those tools, and I was just talking to someone about that was preparing for the hurricane in Florida, and they were saying, we're not going to be able to bathe. We don't know how long we'll have without water. And I said, let's see what happens. Like, we're praying for everyone, of course. I said, but you can do a dry oil scraping bath. And it's funny, we were just talking about that. They said, well, we could just do a lot of powder. And I said, maybe do the oil and the scraping.
Do the oil if you can, but let's hope for the best, because another one's
Hope for the
coming.
best.
And it's such a disaster there in Carolinas. So very sad. So we can't control the weather, but we've got to be prepared. And so you always should have plenty of water on hand in your home, and really fresh water, and bottle. And I don't. It should be glass, not plastic. Okay, so make sure you have it in glass, or like the hydrogen water, we have it in aluminum cans, but they're covered with a polymer inside that protects it. So all these things can help us. So you have to be prepared. You've got to always have extra food in the house. You have to. And a lot of water. Just store the cases of water and make sure it's glass. Okay. And
make sure it's glass. That's really interesting. I've been diligently creating a little supply of things, and I've been learning how to make kimchi and how to can, and I've started making my own yogurt with goat's milk. Now I need a goat. So I think we'll see where this all goes. I know, Susan, I can see you. But
whole other podcast.
In the water category, yes. I've been asking so many people, and I'm in California, and I ask them for water in glass, and they look at me like I'm crazy. I found a few resources that will do it, but I've just been stocking up on my hydrogen water, because you said in our last podcast that you tested cans that had been on the shelves for 6 years. And not only are you using the purest water, so I know the water is going to be good in here, but the volatility, the volume and the efficacy of the hydrogen after 6 years on a shelf is still good.
Yes, it's amazing. We call it retains. We put these on the shelves when we do a run, and then to check them. And it's unfortunate that many of the brands that we tested, they're just they've been on the shelf for a couple of months. They have sub-therapeutic levels of hydrogen. And we can't put hydrogen in glass. It goes right through glass. That's why it's in aluminum. So you probably want to make sure you're doing that. And of course, you got to find the right one. And there's actually a little kit you can get. It looks like, we call it like methylene blue, and it comes with like a little measure, and you put some hydrogen in, then you put a drop in, and the hydrogen will reduce it, and it'll go from blue to clear. And so each drop, it's 1/10 part per million. So if you can get 10 drops in, they're clear, you have a therapeutic level. So it's not expensive to have that, to test that, because that would be ideal to make sure you're getting the right amount, because this is important. Hydrogen is very important.
I've noticed a big difference, and I'm just going to shamelessly plug this for you because for our audience, we don't have any relationship other than that we just love and respect Dr. Perricone so much. So, and for many of you, I know you guys have been telling us that you've been using your hydrogen water at least twice a day, and people have been saying their brains feel better, they're sleeping better, they feel less stressed out. I find that my exercise is better when I use it right beforehand. My attitude is better. So, if I'm feeling a little cantankerous, I'm usually dehydrated, and this seems to help. So, and my skin and my body feels better. A lot of my inflammation and my joints, I'm going through a whole battery of tests right now, testing inflammation and fighting with doctors, thanks to you, Dr. Perricone, who have said to me, I went in and said, something's off. Something's off. I'm feeling inflammation. I want to get baseline, blood work so that I can then measure it, change my diet, and see how I'm doing. And they were fighting me on even doing the blood tests. But, I knew kind of what to say to get them to do some of the blood tests, and they've done them. And now we're just making some dietary changes. But thanks to you, I know better how to advocate for myself, because I knew something was a little off. And they say, clinically, you're fine. Everything's normal. You're fine. Or they'll say, well, 15% of the population has this elevated reading and they're asymptomatic. And I said, well, but I've heard that inflammation is asymptomatic until it's disease. And they blinked at me and like a big pain in the butt. But they continued testing and found things. So,
in medical school, we don't even have one course in nutrition.
yeah.
Just don't. And everything we learn is actually in class. And there's a lot of, you just have to learn what you're going to, and you have to do things on your own as a physician. So diet's critical, and inflammation's the bad guy. When I started this 20 years ago, I was a total pariah, but the inflammation aging disease theory is now mainstream, and no one remembers my name. That's fine. It was better than getting all the bad letters. And so we want everybody to just understand this. And look, the doctor is there, and they're important. When you get sick, you need their medications, but the idea is to stay healthy. And so let's talk a little bit about that mild amounts of or moderate amounts of exercise are anti-inflammatory. And so that's critical. So what I do every morning, I get up and I go out here. I have a nice spot by the water here. I'll do my 20 minutes of stretching. And I do it barefoot because you're grounding. And so grounding kind of brings electrons up from the ground, and electrons are very good. They are anti-inflammatory. So you do that in the morning, do your stretching. And then, of course, I've had my glass, my can of hydrogen water already. And then you have your anti-inflammatory diet, and just get in the habit. But these are all simple things. So instead of getting into arguments with your doctor, who hasn't been educated and he's really, or he or she are set in their ways, you just say, well, I'd like to just have this checked. I want to know what my C-reactive protein is. And you want to be down in the low numbers. And if you want to be there, try the anti-inflammatory diet, drink hydrogen water, and it's painless. But then remember things is on the days you don't get enough protein are the days you age, because you need protein to repair cells, okay? And
Let's
so
repeat that one more time.
on the days you do not get enough protein are the days you age. You have to have protein to repair your cells. So we have to think about inflammation, and that's something that has to be controlled, but adequate. So you want to make sure you get adequate protein every day, high quality protein, and you're going to find that in things like eggs and dairy. And of course, if you're not a vegetarian, certainly salmon's high on my list, but fish is very, very good. But you can, if you do eat beef, that's fine, and pork, whatever it is. But those are all high quality proteins, and you have to decide, what you want to do. But it makes no sense to have if you're having a so-called meal, not to have any protein in there. It's kind of disastrous.
That's wonderful. And Dr. Perricone, for people that think, gosh, I'm too busy to be preparing all of these meals, and how do I store salmon? How do I keep salmon? I know you have some tips for really easy salmon. And so people also know what type, because we can go on tangents and down rabbit holes about where to get it and what to do. But I know you have an easy way for people to do the right thing here.
So, of course, ideally, wild Alaskan salmon is great, but it's seasonal, difficult to get. And so most of this is salmon that's raised in the salmon farms. Not ideal, but you know what? It's still probably the best food you can possibly get. And the thing with salmon is because it has so much wonderful essential fatty acids, they're very easy to oxidize. And so people who don't like salmon have never had a real fresh piece of salmon. Salmon, when you put it in your mouth, there should be no fishy smell, and it's just like eating cream. It's so good. But it's very difficult. So you've got to buy the salmon. Make sure you find a really good place where it's just very fresh. Bring it home and then cook it, and you're gonna enjoy it. And if anybody says they don't like salmon, I'd say, well, let's just try this, and I'll make them a piece of salmon that's the real thing with no oxidation, and they just love it. So a lot of ways to get protein. A lot of ways to get protein. You can break it up into 2 or 3 meals a day. Now, what I do is because I don't have a lot of time, I do my egg drink. I buy these pasteurized eggs they look like they're in quart. They look like they're in basically a quart of milk, but it's actually the whole egg, or just the egg whites. And I pour a glass, and I put some glycine to sweeten it. And sometimes I just put a little bit of some juices I make with vegetables in there and drink it down. It's a shortcut, but it gets me like 40 or 50 grams with that one glass.
That's
And,
incredible.
and it gets you on your way. So there are a lot of ways to do this. You don't have to be spending, if I had to cook every meal, I'd be deficient, very deficient, but
Right.
I'm up
Right.
with ways of doing this.
Well, what we'll do is we'll connect with you and with your team, and we will get the anti-inflammatory diet up. We'll also maybe get some links to the egg that you use and the glycine that you use. We'll wait for your friend's olive oil to come up, but we'll maybe promote or tell people about the olive oils that you suggest, and maybe on our next our next little segment that we do together, we can put together a little coalition and a team of people that we're gonna be healthy through the holidays together. Maybe with our listeners, we can create a group, and we can all do photos beforehand, commit to the 3 days for an event, but commit maybe through the holidays and give ourselves an 8 week of grounding, olive oil, protein, and just
Do a
get
beauty
ready for the
challenge.
book.
Yeah, we could do a beauty challenge. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we sure could. And so we also always want to include some moderate exercise. When we exercise, it should be moderate. People who go to the gym and they do like a 2-hour workout, you're actually causing increased oxidative stress, and your body can't compensate. So my workout, which I haven't done yet today in the gym there, I did my stretching. But when we're through with this, I'll do about 30 minutes of weights, but it's high repetition, low weight. And it feels really good, and you feel really good if you feel exhausted or you've done too much. So just think about moderate. I know younger people, men and women, who are really into weight training, and I know that they want to put on muscle mass and all that. They can do that. I mean, certainly do that, but for the average person, we don't want to stress our bodies like that. We don't have that much time, and we don't want to do that. So I just want people to understand that 15 or 20 minutes of weight resistance is phenomenal. And
That's
you don't have
incredible
to use
to
heavy
know.
weights, and I'll do that. I'll do up to 20 or 30 repetitions with each one I do, and I'm done within about 20, 25 minutes. Circulation's up. And it also triggers release of certain substances that actually make you feel really relaxed. So one thing we do is when we exercise, you actually produce a number of things that we call metabolites. But these metabolites join up with some amino acids in the body, and they suppress the appetite, and they also have anti-inflammatory effects. So, I mean, exercise is so incredible what it could do. But people think that they have to just do this huge workout. You just don't. I mean, 20 or 30 minutes is all you need. And if you're going to a gym and I would not suggest exercising over 45 minutes. I would just, unless you're training for a program, or, if you're a runner or whatever it is. But for the average person, that's the max. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to have a whole episode on that. I have a personal trainer that I work with, a woman, 50-year-old, and she's a professional bodybuilder, but she's excellent. I'm going to have her on, and I've talked to Hillary about her as well. And that's the one thing we talk about is as we age, and especially women that have gone through menopause or approaching menopause, our bodies do change with exercise. And if you do too much, you can stimulate those cortisol levels, and it sort of has the opposite effect. So it's interesting how exercise, much like our skincare changes, hopefully our diets improve. Our exercise, the way we exercise should not be the same over 50 as the way we did maybe when we were in our 20s or 30s. Our bodies are different, our metabolism's different. And I think you agree with all this. It's about movement and moving and feeling good, but not stressing. And injuries can happen too.
Certainly as we get older, the tendons are much weaker. So if you were, you were doing these big heavy duty bench presses and you continue into your 50s, you're going to tear something. Okay, it's going to be injuries. So just use common sense here. Remember that exercise it's critical, it's very important, but in moderation. And when I see people over exercising, they're just, they're working so hard to actually go backwards.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's a relief. Isn't that lovely? So we've just found out that we can exercise less and have better benefits, eat more and be healthier. Like, this is good news all the way around.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of positives, right? There's a lot of positives to our journey as aging,
Yeah,
so.
and it always comes down to moderation. I
Right.
mean, when you're very enthusiastic about something, you tend to go overboard. And that's fine when you're in 20s, but you can't be doing it, as you get older. It's not important. And you think you're doing something good, you're not. We want to just look, the whole idea is to feel good and to look good and to be independent. Okay, we want to keep our brain working and we want to be independent because without that, we can't accomplish. Everybody has a mission. Everybody's listening today has a mission. And it's an individual mission, but to do that, you have to have good brain working, and you have to have a body that's going to respond to you. And so if you interrupt that mission by lousy food or alcohol in excess or drugs, you can't achieve your mission. And it's not fun. You become a burden to yourself, your family, to your community, to the healthcare system. And then we're not going to achieve our mission. And we know we're on the right path. Everybody has a mission. I know they do. When I actually talk to them, so well, I don't feel like I said, well, tell me what you're doing. And I don't care what you're doing, if you're doing it well, and especially if you're doing things that are good for you, but also helping other people. It's amazing.
That's right.
Go.
Oh, that's
Well,
beautiful.
hopefully we helped a lot of our listeners today.
I think so. I think so. And when we come back, we have you scheduled to come back next month as well. You're so generous with your time with us, and we're so grateful because we just every time I think somebody out there is hearing something for the first time, ourselves included, and it's going far and wide. And our mission is here to really help people have the information that they need to improve their lives. And supporting your book and supporting your work is one of the most important ways that we can do that. So,
Right. And we'll plan something probably mid-December because the book will be coming out in January. And we'll
wonderful.
go over the book in detail. Everybody should get this because it was a book that I wanted to do. And I hadn't done a book in 10 years. And because I said, I have to have something new to say. So this is all new. I'll spend the first, I'd say 25% of the book just bringing people up to speed because there's a whole new generation out there now about
Yeah.
inflammation and aging and anti-inflammatory diet, but all of the things I've discovered. And what's interesting is it all came down at the end of the day to one molecule. It's hard to believe, okay? So the book is named after the one molecule. I'm not going to give you the title right now. And so once you start looking at that, and there are ways of elevating that one molecule in your body. So it's anti-aging, it's good for the brain, it's good for bone density, it's wonderful for the immune system and for longevity and beauty. And that's what we're all about. So we're going to make it easy. And if it's not easy, I failed my mission.
Oh, this is so exciting.
All right.
Well,
Well, we do easy. So we like easy. Not everything's hard, right? Some
Right.
things are hard and some things are easy, but we'll all get there together. So cheers.
Cheers, guys.
cheers.
Always a
Cheers.
pleasure
Drink
to
your
spend time with
hydrogen
you.
water and keep telling us what you think, and start thinking for our audience, start thinking in the back of your mind if you would like to do, I don't even want to call it a challenge. I think it's exciting. If you want to
Oh,
jump on
think of a different
jump
word
on
than
board
challenge.
with us, maybe we'll do a little stretching in the morning. We can always do like a Zoom live. We're not roping you into this, Dr. Perricone, but Susan and I might do, who knows what we can do over the whole holidays to help people get ready for the new year, a new book, a whole new way of, looking at honoring and caring for your body in a kinder, gentler way. So,
And in empowering ourselves.
Right. We want to empower ourselves because at the end of the day, we have a mission, right?
we have a mission.
After the
I
break,
have so many questions for next time.
I know.
Please drop us some comments, ask some questions. We will have time with Dr. Perricone in just a few more weeks. So don't miss the opportunity to chat with him one-on-one. It's something that people haven't been able to do for years and years and years. And we are just so fortunate and so grateful. So
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for
thank
your time.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Perricone.